Welcome back to another transfer tips video ahead of Game Week 21. There is a long break between now and the Game Week 21 deadline, but I'm going to be covering 10 players to buy, hold, sell and skip, talking about the Asian Cup and the African Cup of Nations and the impact upon our FPL teams, talking about some of the best replacements for these players like Salah, Son, Hwang Hee-chan, and what to do with those individual players, because some of you may be considering to keep one or two of these Asian or African players, and I'll be covering everything in this video. If you end up enjoying it, smash the like button and subscribe for new. Our aim is to get this video to the 200 likes, and if we can reach that goal, there's also going to be a best wildcard team video, team selection, and much more content before the Game Week 21 deadline. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. The first buy today is Diogo Jota. He is not a nailed-on player. If you want a 90-minute man who's going to come in and replace Salah and Son and be very consistent with the minutes, Diogo Jota isn't the answer. But what you do get from him is the attacking potential in limited minutes. He can do very well even off the bench with 20 or 10 minutes of an appearance like he did against Newcastle with 2 assists, and also scoring against Burnley to kill off that game as well. He's very clinical and he's got some very good attacking numbers considering maybe some low underlying stats there as well. His XGI is 4.3. Yeah, he's got 5 goals and 4 assists, 57 FPL points considering he's only played 660 minutes or so, and he's only played 90 minutes once all season in the Merseyside derby. So Diogo Jota isn't going to be the safest option. I would rather go for Foden and also other options like Palmer and Jeroboam. Those two would be my favourite options to cover and replace Salah and Son. Then I'd be looking at Foden and Saka, and then you'd be looking at the other bracket, which includes the likes of Diogo Jota and some other players I'm going to cover very soon. So Diogo Jota is a buy. I think he'll start most games coming up, but there could be the odd benching, and even then he can get some returns off the bench. I would also include Richarlison in that bracket in terms of being just below the likes of Palmer, Bowen and Saka as the best Salah or Son replacements, but he's a differential at 6.9% ownership. He went up in price overnight to 6.9 million, 6 goals, 3 assists, 12 big chances, with half of those coming in the last 5 game weeks, and he scored 5 goals in that time frame as well. 73 FPL points, and he could get the bulk of the chances now with Heung-min Son off to the Asian Cup for the next 3 or 4 game weeks, potentially even more. Let's wait and see how far South Korea go in that competition, but Richarlison could be on penalties as well, and for that price, having a differential covering the Spurs attack, which averaged 2 or 3 goals per game, I think it's a great and astute purchase. And I don't think I would have said this a month ago, but in the last couple of weeks, I've been impressed by Richarlison's form. He's scoring at a consistent rate, and that's why I included him in the last few wildcard videos. I think he's a very good option in the midfield right now. So Richarlison is a buy. Let's wait for more fitness updates, of course, but I think Erling Haaland will be a buy, and he should be available and start against Newcastle away, and he should definitely be ready in time for Burnley at home in Game Week 22. And in the long run, he's a great way of maybe distributing the funds that you're going to gain by selling Salah or Son, if you choose to do that, of course. And Haaland, for me, will be one of the best options in the game over the next 5 to 10 game weeks. His price is pretty much locked. It's 13.9 million, and he's not going down despite losing 40% ownership. It's 53.3% now. That's third behind Watkins and Saka, who is first in terms of ownership. 14 goals, 5 assists for Haaland, 28 big chances. The underlying numbers are terrific. 112 FPL points, and I think Haaland will be available very soon and start the vast majority, if not all, Premier League games until the end of the season. So Haaland for me is an easy buy, but wait for more fitness updates first. If he's not available or there's still some doubts about him starting against Newcastle, you can delay this transfer by 1 more week or 2, but ultimately when Haaland is fit, I would buy him. The first hold of this video is William Saliba, who's been transferred out by 67,000 managers at the time of this recording. 2 good fixtures have gone by for Arsenal, and they've lost both of them. Only 1 clean sheet in the last 5 game weeks against Brighton, and that was their last victory. Arsenal really struggling at this moment in time to bury their chances, and they're not keeping clean sheets. So Saliba is being sold for a reason, but I would back Arsenal to get things right and for Saliba to be a good FPL option in the next few months. So I would keep him. I think 1 or 2 clean sheets is definitely possible over the next 5. You're kind of discounting Liverpool there around Game Week 22, and also even West Ham away. I don't think there's going to be a clean sheet there, but in the other 3 games, it is possible. I'd probably be looking at Crystal Palace and Burnley as the most likely clean sheets there for the Gunners, but you just never know what you're going to get from them. Saliba's ownership is 36.5% still. His price is 5.6 million, but only 1 goal, 1 assist and 6 bonus points, 75 FPL points overall. I was expecting much more from Saliba and Arsenal defenders over the last couple of weeks, but now is the time for them to go on a run and to finally get their act together, and I think Saliba could be a good FPL defender. This may seem like a very simple one, but people have been asking me, should I sell Solanke to Alvarez back in Game Week 20 because Man City had Sheffield United at home, and also for the upcoming fixtures, a potential double game week for Man City fairly soon. But Bournemouth also have a pending double game week, including Luton Town. So I think Solanke is definitely worth holding. I know the next 5 don't look great in terms of fixtures. Liverpool and Newcastle are looking pretty poor in terms of the FDR, but Newcastle's a good fixture at this moment in time. They've conceded 20 XG in the last 5 game weeks, which is almost double that of the second worst, which is Tottenham Hotspur, around 12. So Newcastle's defence is there to be targeted. Of course, by the time we get to that fixture, it's still 5 game weeks away. Maybe Newcastle get their act together and get more key players back from injury. But Solanke, for me, is fixture-proof. He's worth holding. He can do well against Liverpool even. And there's a reason why. He scored a hat-trick very recently and is one of the highest-scoring FPL players and forwards in the game. His price is 7.1 million. His ownership is also just rising and rising to 27.6%. 12 goals, 1 assist, 17 big chances, and just shy of 100 FPL points. Would I buy Solanke right now? Perhaps not, but he can still do well against Liverpool and West Ham. I could think of worse transfers to make at the moment, and he's definitely going to be more of a buy territory around Game Week 22. He's going to be facing Nottingham Forest, who he scored a hat-trick against just a couple of weeks ago. So for me, Solanke's an easy hold, and very soon he'll become a buy again. We're on to the sells now, and Mohamed Salah for me is an easy sell despite getting 16 points in Game Week 20 and having the most points of any FPL asset this season with 156. His XGI is almost 20, 14 goals, 8 assists. His ownership is decreasing rapidly. Almost 1 million managers have transferred him out already, and we have 9 days left until the deadline. What I would urge is a bit of caution because the replacements you bring in could get injured. We've got FA Cup games coming up and plenty of time before the deadline. I would always prioritize information over early transfers and, chasing these price swings. So sell Salah, but if possible, don't do it just yet because Salah is so expensive. You can go down to any midfielder of your choice because, you're not going to get more expensive than Salah, are you? So I don't think it's really worth it. You're not going to be price locked in terms of the players you want to bring in. The only thing you could also bear in mind is that in the future, by maybe not selling Salah early and stuff like that, if he goes down in price and the players you want to bring in go up in price, it might price you out of certain moves, maybe 5, 6, 7 game weeks down the line. But let's not forget, Salah will be unavailable for at least 2 game weeks due to AFCON. Most likely he'll be out for 3 to 4, and maybe add on top of that a potential blank in Game Week 26 if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final, and that could be another issue, and then a potential another blank in Game Week 29 if Liverpool reach the FA Cup quarter-final. So Salah is a sell, but just wait a little bit longer before making the move. The same applies for Son. He is a sell, but I'd be more inclined to keep him compared to Salah because there is a big difference in price, around 3.4 million, and Son is now 9.8 because he went down in price overnight. His ownership is 38.4%, 12 goals, 5 assists. His XGI isn't that high, but Son is so clinical, and that's what separates him from pretty much every single other FPL asset. 136 FPL points, and once he comes back from the Asian Cup, he is a must-buy in my opinion, and I know Richarlison could be a decent way of covering Heung-min Son and a great replacement for him, but there's no comparing to Son. He's got the assists when he's playing on the left-hand side and also down the middle. He is so clinical when he gets those chances, and he would be on penalties. But right now, Son is a sell. He'll be out for the next 2 or 3 game weeks. Now, he could also blank in Game Week 26 if Chelsea reach the Carabao Cup final. So that is something else you need to bear in mind, a bit similar to Salah. But with Son, because he's less expensive, you could always maybe make a case for keeping him if you had to decide between Son and Salah and who to sell or hold. I know some of you may disagree because you have more value tied up in Salah and you've got so much money in the bank that it doesn't really matter anyway. You can still go to virtually any midfielder of your choice by selling Son and keeping Salah. But for me, Son is still a sell, and if you check out my team selection video coming up in the next week or so, you'll see what my plans are for both Salah and Son. I talked about buying Zinchenko a couple of weeks ago, but he has picked up an injury. He missed out the game against Fulham due to a calf problem, and they are having scans to determine how serious it is. But Zinchenko is an injury-prone defender, and one of my key reasons for buying him very recently is the fixture run that Arsenal had, and also no Timber Tomiyasu up until February potentially, or March. And with that, Zinchenko had kind of a clear slot and pathway to being the main left-back for Arsenal, starting week in, week out. But there's also the possibility of Kiwior coming in from time to time, as we saw against Fulham, but that was because Zinchenko was missing out. I have a feeling that this injury could be a big problem, and he could miss out a couple of game weeks. Let's wait and see, of course, for official confirmation. But with Arsenal, if you've got a double up in the defence with Gabriel and Saliba, and maybe on top of that you have Zinchenko, I'd rather sell Zinchenko at this moment in time because of his injury record. He always picks up these knocks, and with Saliba, I think that's more than enough to cover the Arsenal defence at this moment in time. Zinchenko's ownership is 12.9%, 1 goal, 1 assist, 11 bonus points. That's what he has over any other Arsenal defender, including Saliba, but 71 FPL points, and I think he's going to miss a few game weeks at the very least. So for me, Zinchenko is a sell, and I would limit myself to just one Arsenal defender. The final segment of this video is the skips, and for me, Bruno Fernandes, in spite of his great fixture run, it's just not worth going for him at this moment in time. His XGI is comparable to Heung-min Son, but the goals and assists aren't. 3 goals, 3 assists with an XGI of 10.05 and only 68 FPL points. There's a reason why Bruno Fernandes is only 8.2 million, and also his ownership isn't even at 10% right now. But he's got some good fixtures coming up. He did very well against Tottenham last season at Old Trafford, but Man United can't go on a run. They can beat an Aston Villa or do pretty well against the big team, but then lose against Bournemouth, get absolutely battered in that game, and also lose to Nottingham Forest. So Bruno Fernandes just can't be relied upon at this moment in time. And Marcus Rashford, he scored. Is he going to go on a run? I just can't really see it right now until I see sustainability in the Man United team, in their attack, and also in these individual players. I would recommend skipping all of them. If you had to go for one, it would be Garnacho, simply because he's so cheap, but it's not worth going for Bruno Fernandes or Rashford at 8 to 9 million. I just don't think you're going to get the points necessary to have that move pay off. Now, can Bruno Fernandes become a good FPL option once again? Yes, he certainly can, because he's one of the best creators in the league. He's always involved in everything Man United do, but you need to see an improvement, a drastic one at that, in order for him to become a buy. So right now, Bruno Fernandes is a skip. Let's keep an eye out for any improvements, because if he can make things click and Man United can go on a run, Bruno Fernandes will become a decent midfielder in FPL. The 10th and final player covered in today's video is Kevin De Bruyne. It might surprise you to hear that he's been transferred in by over 200,000 managers, which makes him the 6th most transferred in player at the moment, which is absolutely ridiculous. He's only played 22 minutes, and that was back in Game Week 1 against Burnley, where he picked up an injury. Now, he scored 183 points last season, and of course, 0 goals and 0 assists for this campaign. He's barely played in any competition. I think the only attack and return he got was against Arsenal in the Community Shield. He also missed the penalty in that game, but yeah, his ownership is 3.4%. Can De Bruyne become a good option? Of course he can. And once he clicks and he can get that fitness up, start a consistent run of games, De Bruyne could be one of the best midfielders in the game, especially to replace Salah and Son. His ceiling is tremendously high, and I would actually back De Bruyne to do very well in the double game week. Whenever that happens, we're not too sure. It could be game week 24 or at least before game week 29. And if De Bruyne is fit by then, I would back him to score the most points alongside Haaland. It could be a close race for the captaincy between those two options. But right now, I would skip De Bruyne. It's Newcastle away next. There's no guarantee that he's going to start the game because he's been injured for so long. Pep Guardiola kind of compared this injury to an ACL problem, and as a result, there is no need for De Bruyne to be rushed back in, because he could be really crucial in the last stage of the season when Man City really start to purr and go on a run. So De Bruyne for me is a skip for now, but this could definitely change once his fitness has improved. And there we have it, 10 players to buy, hold, sell and skip, all covered for Game Week 21. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you disagree? Are there any players you want to see covered? For example, Palmer, Bowen and Foden. I've actually talked about buying and holding them in the last couple of weeks. So as a result, I wanted to cover some different options in this video. And some of the buys like Jota and Richarlison are mega differentials that I would highly encourage you to consider at the very least. On screen, you can see the most transferred out players. Salah and Son are definitely up there. I would recommend selling both, but I can understand why some of you might want to keep at least one, perhaps even both, but I think that would be a step too far, and having only 3 playing midfielders over the next few weeks. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to the 200 likes and let's keep on pushing towards 23,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, and Draft Hound. I'd highly recommend you to check all of those links out. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 21 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.